the FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file. And I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th? And have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
As to the first, it's an ongoing investigation, and we have made progress. As to the second, sir, I'll have to get back to you.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous
Gentleman
consent
yields back.
request.
Unanimous consent request from the gentleman from New York.
I ask unanimous consent to introduce an unsigned memorandum from July 7th, 2025 that says we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties with the insignia of the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Without objection.
17 seconds ago, Thomas Massie did something in the House Oversight Committee chamber that will be talked about in Washington for decades. The MIT-trained engineer from Kentucky looked FBI Director Kash Patel directly in the eye and asked a question so devastating that Patel's hands visibly trembled as he reached for his water glass. "Director Patel," Massie said, his voice carrying engineering precision. "Can you explain to me why the FBI's budget shows $47 million allocated for data storage infrastructure, while your own technical reports show you deleted 2.4 terabytes of case files?" The question hung in the air like a ticking bomb. Every camera in that packed committee room zoomed in on Patel's face as the color drained from it in real time, because Thomas Massie hadn't just asked a budget question. He had just exposed the biggest cover-up in FBI history using nothing but math, engineering logic, and Patel's own financial documents. House Oversight Committee, Room 2154, January 28, 2026, 2:34 p.m. The hearing was supposed to be routine budget review. Republicans would praise law enforcement, Democrats would press on civil liberties, everyone would go through the motions and head home. But Thomas Massie walked into that room with something different, not prepared talking points or thick briefing books. Massie had a single manila envelope, unmarked, sealed, and judging by how carefully he placed it on his desk, it contained something that would change everything. The first hour proceeded exactly as Patel's team had scripted. Republican members asked friendly questions about border security successes, terrorism prevention statistics, organized crime prosecutions. Patel delivered smooth, confident responses. His voice steady, his posture relaxed, his answers hitting every prepared talking point with bureaucratic precision. Democratic members tried their usual attacks. They pressed on controversial FBI decisions, questioned personnel changes, demanded explanations for policy shifts, but Patel deflected each challenge with practiced ease. Ongoing investigations, personnel privacy, operational security, the standard shields that FBI directors use to avoid saying anything meaningful. At 2:32 p.m., Chairman James Comer recognized the gentleman from Kentucky for his allotted questioning time. The room's energy shifted immediately, because everyone who covers Congress knows that Thomas Massie doesn't ask questions unless he already has the answers. And he doesn't bring envelopes to hearings unless those envelopes contain someone's career-ending documents. Massie is not your typical politician. MIT electrical engineering degree. Successful entrepreneur, the kind of mind that sees patterns where others see chaos, that finds discrepancies where others see standard procedure. When Massie asks technical questions, seasoned Washington veterans pay attention. "Director Patel," Massie began, opening his envelope with deliberate precision. I want to talk about something that troubles me as both a fiscal conservative and an engineer. He pulled out a single sheet of paper, held it up so the cameras could see the official FBI letterhead, the budget classification markings. Patel leaned forward slightly, still projecting confidence, but his eyes tracking to the document in Massie's hand. Of course, Congressman. I'm happy to discuss our budgetary processes. Excellent, Massie said. And there was something in that word that made every experienced Washington observer understand that Patel had just walked into a trap that had been months in the making. Because I've been reviewing your fiscal year 2025 budget submissions and I found something that doesn't add up. Massie put on his reading glasses, the same glasses he wore when designing electrical systems, calculating load distributions, solving problems requiring absolute precision. Your budget request includes $47 million for what you describe as enhanced data storage infrastructure and backup systems. That's a significant investment in data preservation capabilities. Patel nodded, still confident. Yes, Congressman. The FBI takes data security and preservation very seriously. We've invested heavily in state-of-the-art systems to ensure that crucial intelligence and case files are protected and accessible. State-of-the-art systems, Massie repeated slowly. Systems designed to prevent data loss. Systems with multiple redundancies. Systems that, according to your own technical specifications, make unauthorized deletion virtually impossible. That's correct, Patel confirmed. We have multiple backup protocols, strict access controls, and comprehensive audit trails. Massie smiled, not a friendly smile. The kind of smile an engineer gets when he's about to prove that someone's calculations are completely wrong. Then perhaps you can help me understand this discrepancy. He pulled out a second document. This one had red classification markings, official seals, the kind of authentication that proved it came directly from FBI internal systems. This is a technical report from your own IT security division, dated December 15, 2025. It documents what your staff describes as the largest unexplained data loss in FBI history. The room went completely silent. Patel's confident posture changed almost imperceptibly. His shoulders tensed. His right hand moved toward the edge of the table, a stress response that trained observers had learned to recognize. According to this report, Massie continued, his engineer's voice cutting through the silence, on November 3, 2025, approximately 2.4 terabytes of classified case files were permanently deleted from FBI servers. That's roughly 2.4 trillion bytes of data, gone, unrecoverable. He looked up at Patel with laser focus. Director, can you explain to me how an organization that spent $47 million on state-of-the-art data preservation systems managed to lose 2.4 terabytes of case files? Patel's mouth opened, but no words came out initially. His left hand reached for his water glass, and when he lifted it to drink, the trembling was visible even from the press gallery. Water sloshed slightly over the rim. Congressman, Patel finally managed, his voice noticeably strained. Technical systems are complex, and there can be various explanations for data migrations and archival processes that might appear as data migrations? Massie interrupted, his voice sharp with the precision of someone who had spent years working with computer systems. Director, this report doesn't describe a migration. Let me read you the exact technical language. He held up the document, reading with meticulous precision. Quote, the deletion utilized emergency override protocols specifically designed to bypass all standard preservation safeguards. 6 separate backup systems were manually disabled. The operation required administrative-level access codes and explicit confirmation at multiple verification points. This was not automated. This was deliberate manual deletion. Massie set the document down slowly, letting the technical details sink in. Director, as someone who has designed computer systems, I can tell you that what this report describes isn't a migration or an archival process. It's a deliberate destruction of data that required someone to actively override every single safety system your $47 million infrastructure was designed to provide. The trap was closing, and everyone in the room could see it. Patel's face had gone visibly pale. His hands were clasped together on the table, but the trembling was still evident. His breathing had become noticeably rapid. But Massie wasn't finished. He pulled out a third document, and this one changed everything. "Director Patel," Massie said, his voice carrying absolute authority, "this is your FBI headquarters security access log for November 2nd and 3rd, 2025. He held up the document so everyone could see the official timestamps, the authentication codes, the undeniable proof of presence and access. According to this official record, you personally entered FBI headquarters at 11:34 p.m. on November 2nd. You accessed the director's office suite at 11:41 p.m. The logs show no other personnel on the 7th floor throughout the night. You remained in the building until 4:18 a.m. on November 3rd. Massie paused, letting the timeline sink in. The data deletion occurred at 2:47 a.m. You were alone in your office, Director Patel, when 2.4 terabytes of FBI case files were permanently destroyed. The mathematical precision was devastating. The timeline was irrefutable. The access logs were official FBI records. Thomas Massie had just used engineering methodology to build an airtight case that the FBI director had personally destroyed classified case files in the middle of the night. Patel tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Congressman, I may have been working late that night, but the technical operations are handled by specialized personnel." "Specialized personnel?" Massie's voice carried genuine incredulity. "Director, your own security logs show you were alone on the 7th floor. Your own technical reports show the deletion required director-level access codes. Your own budget documents show you claim to have systems that make this impossible." He leaned forward, and his next question was delivered with the cold precision of an engineer who had calculated the exact point of structural failure. "So I'm going to ask you one simple question, Director Patel. Were you lying when you told Congress you had spent $47 million on systems to prevent data loss? Or are you lying now when you claim you don't know how 2.4 terabytes of case files disappeared while you were alone in your office at 2:47 a.m.? The question was perfect, mathematical, inescapable. There were only two possibilities, and both led to the same conclusion. Kash Patel was a liar who had either defrauded Congress about FBI capabilities or had personally destroyed classified evidence. Patel sat frozen, his face glistening with visible perspiration, his hands trembling so badly that he pressed them flat against the table to try to stop the shaking. His mouth opened and closed several times, but no coherent words emerged. 23 seconds of complete silence. In congressional hearings, 23 seconds is an eternity. It's a confession without words. It's the moment when everyone watching understands that the witness has no answer, because there is no answer that doesn't destroy him. Finally, Patel managed to speak, but his voice was barely recognizable. "Congressman, these technical matters involve complex classifications and ongoing investigations that I cannot discuss in an open session." "Technical matters?" Massie's voice cut through like a blade. "Director, I'm an electrical engineer. I've designed computer systems. I understand technical matters. What you're describing isn't technical complexity. It's deliberate destruction of evidence." He pulled out one final document, and this was the kill shot. "This is a list of the case files that were deleted, Director Patel. Counterintelligence investigations, foreign influence operations, financial crimes, organized crime, human trafficking cases." Massie's voice grew harder with each category. 2.4 terabytes of criminal investigations, permanently destroyed, while you sat alone in your office. He looked directly at the cameras, speaking to the American people. Director Patel claimed he spent $47 million of taxpayer money on systems to protect FBI data. But when those systems worked exactly as designed, when they tried to prevent the deletion of crucial case files, he overrode every safety measure and destroyed the evidence anyway. The room erupted. Reporters were frantically typing. Committee members were shouting questions. Camera operators were scrambling for better angles. But through the chaos, one image dominated. Kash Patel sitting motionless, his career destroyed by a MIT engineer who had simply asked him to explain his own budget numbers. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Social media exploded. News networks interrupted regular programming. Thomas Massie destroys FBI director trended worldwide within the hour. Legal experts called it the most devastating congressional testimony in modern history. The mathematical precision of Massie's trap was perfect. The evidence was irrefutable. The timeline was undeniable. And Patel had no answer because there was no answer that didn't prove he had committed federal crimes. Sometimes accountability doesn't require political theater or partisan grandstanding. Sometimes it just requires an engineer with a calculator, the patience to review budget documents, and the precision to ask questions that have no innocent answers. Thomas Massie had asked those questions. Kash Patel had no answers. And in 17 seconds, using nothing but math and official FBI documents, the congressman from Kentucky had just ended the career of the most controversial FBI director in American history.